Looking at the game over the past 10 to 12 years, there's been a noticeable trend in the way lots of teams run their default strike play. A default attacking shape designed to create 2v1s and get to outside channels with width, where you can make meters and ultimately score tries. Now, obviously, everyone runs this play slightly different depending on the personnel you have at your disposal. But if you look closely, 99% of teams on the world stage will have this default attacking play. So the play is 9 to 12, 13 short, 10 out the back of 13, with a winger on his shoulder ball, 15 wide, and open side winger holding the touchline on the far side. To anyone who's not 100% sure on what that play looks like, it's exactly what England scored their winning try at Allianz Stadium against France in the Six Nations was. So England set this try up from a line-out maul, which is a really, really good time to use this play because it ties in a lot of your forwards and basically gives you a free shot of going backline against backline. Alex Mitchell finds Ollie Lawrence with a nice wide flat pass. Tommy Freeman runs that short line, which just holds the centres enough to give Finn Smith time on the ball. And what Finn Smith is really good at, one of his super strengths, is just that ability to hold the ball for an extra second. And what you're doing in that shape is you're trying to isolate 13. And what he's done is with that slight delay of the ball, Elliot Daly is then on his shoulder. Barassi's in a little bit of no man's land. Louis Bilbarret probably doesn't jam in as much as he does. And he creates a 2-on-1 against 13. And Elliot Daly goes under the sticks to win the game for England. So we've just talked about how England are using this shape. Wales are using this shape. Ireland are using this shape. Scotland are using this shape. So you'd imagine that the Lions are going to use it this summer in Australia, given the lack of preparation time, given that everybody kind of is using it in their clubs and their countries. It's quite easy to sort of bring everyone together. Let's dive into exactly what this shape is aiming to give you, attack versus defense. The whole idea of this shape is to create 2-on-1s. So first of all, you're trying to isolate 13 in that slightly wider channel. But to isolate 13 in the first place, you have to create a 2-on-1 on 12. And you have to make sure that your attacking 12 is in front of the defensive 12. If your attacking 12 is in front of 10, then it's really, really difficult to execute this play. So you have to create that little bit more width, and you have to get your attacking 12 on the defensive 12. What that then does is create your first 1-on-1 in this shape. It makes sure that 12 cannot move off you. And if he does, the best 12s have got the ability to just physically win that battle, attack the inside shoulder. But the purpose of that first 2-on-1 is to isolate 13 on the next 2-on-1. So you've got your 12 carrying the ball, your 13 on his outside shoulder. That's your first 2-on-1 on your 12. Your second 2-on-1 is when the ball goes out the back to the 10. And like I've mentioned, every 10 will run it slightly differently. The best 10s have got the ability to hold that ball for as long as possible and create your next 2-on-1 on 13. If 13 steps in on the 10, he's got a shoulder ball with the blindside winger. Or if the winger jams in on the outside as well, he's got that ball across the winger to the fullback into the wide channels. So the whole point of this play is, can you create a 2-on-1 on 12 in the first place to isolate 13 for your next 2-on-1, where hopefully if he comes in and jams on your 10, it's a lovely little pop, and it's quite an easy play to pick off. The big question on this, as I've said, is you have to get 12 on 12 off a scrum, and you have to get 12 on probably 10, maybe the inside shoulder of 12 off a line-out maul. The defense is trying to get the loose forward in front of 12, so that then the next decision for 12 and 13, you can't create 2v1s. If you've got 12 on 12, you've got a chance of creating a 2v1. If you've got your forward or your 9 off a scrum in front of 12, or your 10 in front of 12, it's really, really difficult to make those passes, create 2v1s, because effectively the defense is going to be numbered up. So sometimes the defense is going to have a little bit more width, or they're going to have an extra number. And the important thing when you have that, or when you've got that presented in front of you, is you have to play short balls. You have to play through. You have to physically win the battle. And again, what this shape gives you is the ability to, if a team have got a flat 4 in defense, which means you've got your 10, your 12, your 13, and your 14, or your open side winger in one connected flat line, it probably means it's really difficult to pick off 2v1s and to manipulate the defense, because they're looking set and they're looking to come and be aggressive. So in that example, you probably have to win the physical battle. You have to play a short ball and hope that you can get them on the second, third phase where the ball's going to be quicker and you're attacking against a softer edge. We've mentioned creating 2v1s on 12, on 13, looking to pick people off and looking to play through the defensive line during this shape. But also what it's designed for is holding 12 and 13. So a lot of the times you see off scrum attack in particular, your 10 just slinging a wide ball, just 10 to 13, 10 to 50, whatever it is, and you're not holding anybody, and the defense is able just to push off, attack that sort of 13 channel, and especially at ruck time, put a lot of pressure on because they've caught you behind the gain line. What this shape does give you is, even if you want to play wide, you've got that ability with 12 and 13 challenging the line to stop 13, 12, putting a load of pressure on you and get the ball to the edge a bit easier. The whole point of that 12 and 13 going hard is, can you stop a little bit of line speed? Can you fix on the inside shoulder a bit for people just to spray passes into that wide channel and give people 1v1s? Because a lot of the time when you're playing international rugby, when you're playing top level European rugby, it's really, really difficult to cut through teams. It's not like it was 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago where teams are just giving you line breaks for fun. You have to be patient. You have to just create one-on-ones. Sometimes off scrum defense, that's exactly what you want. And that's exactly what this shape gives you. It gives you opportunities to give guys with brilliant feet, pace on the outside, guys who need the ball in their hands, and exciting X-factor players a chance to get on the outside. A big reason for going wide off this shape is to give those guys 1v1s a little bit more time, but you have to do a good job at fixing 10 and 12 or 12 and 13 before you just spray a pass wide. The beauty of this play is it's run a little bit different where you run it on the pitch. So for example, if you're running this play 10 meters out, 15 meters out from the defensive line, you know that the defense is going to be a lot more aggressive. It's probably going to be a lot more ball focused, and they're not going to give you so much space to just spread the ball. So you have to play through, I would say, when you're sort of 10, 15 meters from the line. And so what you may do closer to the line is you may actually swap your centers around, and you may have the 13 being the ball player and the 12 being that short ball, because you want to win that physical battle. You want to play short. You know that the defense aren't going to give you time and space to get to that wide edge. So you have to play through and hope that you can physically dominate teams closer to the line. A big mistake where a lot of teams fall into the trap is trying to play too wide and make big passes 10, 15 meters from the line, where defenses are just revved up, defending for their lives and putting as much line speed on you as possible. The other example is when you run it, I suppose, 20 meters, 25 meters from your own line in your own half, where quite often defenses are going to give you a little bit of a softer edge. So they're probably going to defend with 10, 12, 13, the winger dropping back, covering the 50-22, which I think has been a brilliant rule, by the way, because it allows you to have more attacking opportunities because they have to cover those big kicks and those big 50-22s. So if you're running it 25 meters from your own line, the likelihood is you're going to be defending what in rugby terms they call a 3+1, which is, like I said, the 10, 12, 13, winger dropping back to cover the kick. So what that gives you is the ability to be a little bit more aggressive. So you can really go at the line. Your 12 can be a real threat at the line, attacking inside shoulders of 12. And I suppose being a bit more forceful, and you can probably you want to keep the game a little bit more in front of you and the play a little bit more in front of you and not give the defense time to recover. When you're 25, 30 meters from your own line, they're going to be a bit softer, the defense. So you have to make sure that you go hard at 12 and 13, create your first 2v1, create your second 2v1, and move the ball into the wider channels where you've got more time, more space to execute that play. Tour Watch connected by Vodafone, and how the Lions will deploy this strike play. Obviously, this will be dependent on who Andy Farrell picks in these key positions. For example, if you pick a guy like Finn Russell, who isn't going to be in this shape that much of a running threat, he's going to want to buy himself a little bit more time to allow himself to pick that killer pass into the wide channel and use his fabulous passing game. If you pick Finn Smith, he's so used to running this shape. He basically runs it every single day in Northampton. His strength in this shape is the ability to pick people out and hold on to the ball for as long as possible. And he's got this amazing ability to just draw people onto him. And with his sort of holding onto the ball, double pump, putting people through and picking the right option, he's a real asset in this sort of shape, given how well he knows it for club and country. Similar to Finn Smith, if you're going to pick somebody like Sam Prendergast in this shape, he's actually quite similar to Finn Smith in terms of he's got that ability to hold on to the ball, to pick a pass, to spray a pass. What I think in this shape he's really good at is he's such an attacking threat at the line. Probably a little bit different to your Finn Russells and your Finn Smiths, but he's an aggressive 10. He wants to be able to use what his centres have created for him to really attack the line, use his pace, use his frame, and be a real attacking threat in this shape. So when you decide on making this your default play, you kind of have to decide what sort of route you're going to go down with your 12. Do you pick an out-and-out second playmaker and a ball handler and a ball player? Or do you go down the route of picking a bit of a physical specimen at 12, a guy who's going to challenge the line, full of power, full of aggression? And I think the Lions have probably landed on their feet and are probably going to take the latter in the sense that they're probably going to go Bundyaki, Sione Tuipulotu if he's fit. What Bundyaki gives you in that shape is just the physical power. He's not as good a ball player as Sione Tuipulotu, but what he does do is he challenges the line, he creates one-on-ones, gets the 13 defensively to just tighten up and give the 10 or the 13 outside him a little bit more time. And ultimately, the game of rugby at the minute, in this shape, what it does do, it isolates people one-on-one, 2v1. So Bundyaki is perfect for winning the collisions and getting you over the gain line and holding defenders in this shape. Conversely, when you pick someone like Sione Tuipulotu in this shape, he's got all that. He's got what Bundyaki gives you in terms of his strength, his speed, his power, and his ability to play through the line, offload, physically dominate closer to the line. But also he's a brilliant, brilliant ball player. His ability to pick the right pass in this shape, whether it's the short ball with defenses are rushing out, whether it's the ball out the back, giving his 10 a little bit more time on the ball. I think the Lions at 12 are probably going to go down that route, but they've got a real nice balance in terms of a real bruiser and a physical specimen and a guy who can play a little bit of the ball as well. The problem with this shape, and the problem that the Lions may well come up against in Australia in the summer, is when you're attacking against a team or an individual in particular in that channel who wants to shoot through the line, wants to put as much pressure on you as possible, force your skills, hit behind the gain line, and ultimately spoil the play and make an absolute mess of it. That's exactly what Australia are going to come with this summer. The Lions are probably going to be lining up against a Karevi, a Swahili, an Ikitau, whose natural instincts are probably to be quite aggressive and look for that big shot and look for that play out the back. How do you counteract that? There's one or two ways you can do it, but a lot of good teams effectively let the defense do all the work. And if you're defending against a defense who are blitzing and rushing as hard as possible, let them come to you, let them do the work, sell the ball out the back. What Sione Tuipulotu does really well is almost he kicks out a little bit to create a little bit more width. So if somebody's going to push through and be aggressive out the back, it creates an even bigger hole for you to play through. Also, what you can do, if you've got someone who's going to want to shoot out the back, be aggressive, what the 10 can do, you can almost pre-call it. So you can play, the 12 is going to play that ball just a fraction earlier to isolate a 1v1. So you want your 12 on 12 in that sense, and just ability to flood through, create an offload, and just support through. So it's actually quite clever in terms of you can probably preempt this call if you're playing against an Ikitau, if you're playing against a Swahili, if you're playing against a Karevi whose natural instincts is, okay, let's be aggressive. If you know that a team are playing like that and you know an individual is going to defend like that, the best thing to do is pre-call this shape, play it a little bit earlier to your 13, give your 13 the opportunity to get his hands free, to isolate someone 1v1, especially closer to the line, and let the defense do the work. Because if they're coming 100 miles an hour, it's so difficult. If you're 1 meter out of place or half a yard out of place, you can't change direction, you can't jam in, you can't adjust on the pass. And ultimately, when you've got physical specimens at 12 as well, they're going to have to be respected, and it creates a bit more space for you to score under the sticks or to create line breaks, etc. The best teams running this shape actually create a little bit more width in their play as well. So quite often when you're defensive backline and you've got your 10, 12, 13, and for argument's sake, you're defending off a scrum and you're looking at the scrum, you're looking how the scrum's going, or you're looking at where the ball's won in a line out. And what the best attacking teams do in this shape is while you're 10, 12, 13 are looking at how the scrum's going from a defensive point of view, looking at where the ball's won from a defensive point of view, they're just creating a little bit more width. So all of a sudden, when the defense look back up, they're not where they started. They've got 2 or 3 extra yards in width. And what it does, it stresses the defensive 9. He can't get to 12. He can't put pressure on 12. It stretches the loose forward inside 10 off a line out or off the tail of a line out. And all of a sudden you look up, you've given yourself an extra 2 or 3 yards. And that may give you an extra second on the ball. That may give you an extra meter to get on the outside of someone. But I think the best teams in this shape just pinch a little bit more width so that they create their 2v1s on 12. They create their 2v1s on 13, and they give themselves a little bit more time to pick off the right pass and play to space.
Pod. Rugby pod.